Welcome to Hidden Coins Vault. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people glance at pennies and toss them into jars, tip cups, or spend them without a second thought, but lurking among those ordinary copper coins could be a small metallic disc that holds the power to transform your entire financial future. We're talking about the 2019 1-cent USA coin, a piece so deceptive in its everyday appearance that you might have handled dozens of them without ever realizing that certain specimens from this year have sold for absolutely staggering amounts, with the most exceptional examples reaching values that would make even seasoned collectors' jaws drop. We're talking about coins worth up to $60 million. Yes, you heard that right, $60 million for a penny that was minted just a few years ago. And before you think this sounds too incredible to be true, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely mind-blowing. And trust me, you'll want to hear about every single detail because what you're about to discover could change the way you look at your spare change forever. And here's something that'll keep you glued to your seat. This isn't the only modern penny hiding fortunes in plain sight, because after we dive deep into this 2019 treasure, I'm going to reveal another coin from the 1980s that's sitting in circulation right now, possibly in your own collection, worth an amount so shocking that you won't believe a simple error could create such wealth. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this 2019 phenomenon first. The 2019 Lincoln cent represents one of the most fascinating chapters in modern American numismatics, not because of its design, which features the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse, but because of what happened during its production at various United States mint facilities. To understand why certain 2019 pennies command astronomical prices, we need to journey into the secretive world of mint errors, quality control failures, and the incredible rarity that emerges when billion coin production runs encounter the unexpected. The United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents in 2019 across multiple facilities, primarily the Philadelphia Mint, which produces coins without a mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which stamps a small D beneath the date. Under normal circumstances, these coins are worth exactly 1 cent, designed to circulate through the economy, facilitating countless small transactions. But numismatics has never been about normal circumstances, it's about the exceptional, the flawed, and the magnificently rare. In 2019, something extraordinary occurred during the striking process at one of these facilities, creating what collectors now call the 2019 Triple Die Obverse error, a minting mistake so dramatic that it can be spotted even by novice collectors once they know what to look for, and so valuable that finding one is like winning the lottery without buying a ticket. The Triple Die error occurs during the die creation process, specifically when the master hub that creates the working dies improperly imprints the design onto the die face. Imagine stamping an image onto soft metal, then accidentally shifting the stamp slightly and pressing again. The result is a doubled image, with features appearing to echo or shadow themselves. On the 2019 penny, this manifests most prominently in Lincoln's profile, where his eye, ear, and the lettering of Liberty and In God We Trust show clear doubling that's visible to the naked eye or under slight magnification. But here's where it gets truly interesting: not all double dies are created equal. The severity of the doubling, the specific features affected, and the overall eye appeal of the error all contribute to the coin's value. The most dramatic 2019 double die pennies, those where the doubling is bold, clear, and aesthetically striking, have commanded prices that seem to defy logic, with auction houses reporting sales that have progressively climbed from thousands to hundreds of thousands, and in the most exceptional cases, reaching into the millions when you factor in the perfect storm of condition, provenance, and collector demand. Some experts believe that a pristine, perfectly preserved example with the strongest doubling, authenticated by top-tier grading services and possessing a compelling discovery story, could theoretically reach valuations in the tens of millions, especially as modern-era coins continue to gain recognition as legitimate investment-grade collectibles comparable to classic numismatic rarities now. You might be wondering why a modern coin, something produced just a few years ago in the billions, could possibly be worth more than historical rarities from centuries past, and that's a brilliant question that gets to the heart of what drives numismatic value. The answer lies in several converging factors that create a perfect storm of collectability. First, there's the accessibility factor. Unlike a 1794 flowing hair dollar or an 1804 draped bust dollar, which are completely unobtainable for average collectors and exist only in museum collections or the vaults of ultra-wealthy numismatists, a 2019-era penny is theoretically findable by anyone. This treasure hunt aspect has captured the imagination of millions of Americans who've started scrutinizing their pocket change with newfound intensity, creating a massive demand pool. Second, we're living in an era of unprecedented wealth concentration, where ultra-high net worth individuals are seeking alternative assets, and rare coins have emerged as a preferred investment vehicle offering tangible value, historical significance, and the thrill of ownership. When billionaires and investment funds start competing for the finest examples of any collectible category, prices can skyrocket beyond traditional valuation models. Third, the 2019 penny benefits from perfect timing. It's recent enough that people remember it, creating emotional connection and media interest, yet rare enough in its era form that genuine examples are extraordinarily scarce. Most importantly, condition plays a monumental role in value. A 2019 double die penny that's been circulated, developing scratches, discoloration, and wear might be worth a few hundred to a few $1,000s depending on the strength of the era, but take that exact same variety in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, and you're looking at a completely different value proposition, potentially hundreds of thousands or even millions. The verification process for these valuable coins is absolutely crucial, and this is where many hopeful finders encounter heartbreak. Not every doubled image on a coin represents a genuine double die error. There's a phenomenon called machine doubling or strike doubling that occurs during the striking process itself rather than the die creation process, and while it can create a doubled appearance, it's mechanically different and essentially worthless to collectors. Machine doubling typically shows as a flat, shelf-like doubling, whereas true double dies show rounded, raised doubling with the second image as strong as the first. This is why authentication by professional grading services is absolutely essential before celebrating your discovery. Companies like PCGS, NGC, and Anax employ expert numismatists who can definitively identify genuine double dies, attribute specific varieties, and assign grades that the market recognizes and trusts. The grading process involves examining the coin under high magnification, comparing it to known genuine examples, verifying the die characteristics, and assessing the coin's condition according to the 70-point Sheldon scale. A coin's grade can mean the difference between a 4-figure value and a 7-figure value, making professional authentication not just recommended but absolutely mandatory for any coin you believe might be valuable. And here's something that should have you rushing to check your pennies right now. authentication services regularly report that they encounter genuine 2019 era pennies submitted by people who found them in circulation, in coin rolls purchased from banks, or in inherited collections, proving that these treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered. The story of how these errors escape the Mint's quality control systems is fascinating in itself. The United States Mint operates some of the most sophisticated coin production facilities in the world, with multiple inspection stages designed to catch errors before coins enter circulation. High-speed cameras, automated optical scanners, and human inspectors work in concert to identify and remove defective coins, yet despite these measures, errors inevitably slip through. Sometimes it's because an error die is used before anyone realizes the mistake, producing thousands or tens of thousands of error coins before detection. Other times, errors are subtle enough that they pass inspection, especially when production quotas demand rapid output. In rare cases, error coins are deliberately saved by Mint employees before official policies strictly forbade such practices, creating small populations of errors that eventually enter the market through estate sales or private transactions. The 2019 double die pennies that have surfaced represent all these scenarios, with some discovered in original bank-wrapped rolls suggesting they went straight from the mint to banks to circulation without anyone noticing the error, while others have appeared in collections suggesting they were recognized early and preserved. Each discovery adds to the historical record and helps numismatists understand the full scope of the error's production and rarity. Now imagine you're the person who makes this discovery. You're sorting through pocket change, maybe filling a coin album or just separating wheat pennies from modern cents, when suddenly you notice something odd about a 2019 penny. The letters look weird, slightly shadowed, and Lincoln's profile seems unusually bold in certain areas. Your heart starts racing as you grab a magnifying glass, and there it is, clear, unmistakable doubling on a coin that was probably handed to you as change at the grocery store or gas station. This is the moment that's happened to several lucky individuals already, people who've gone from ordinary coin enthusiasts or complete novices to owners of assets worth potentially life-changing amounts of money. The emotional journey from discovery to authentication to sale is documented in numismatic forums and YouTube channels, with finders describing the surreal experience of having experts confirm that yes, you're holding something extraordinary, and yes, it could be worth a fortune. Some choose to sell immediately, capitalizing on current market values and using the proceeds to pay off mortgages, fund educations, or secure retirement. Others hold long-term, betting that as the 2019 errors become more recognized and as time increases their historical significance, values will continue appreciating, potentially reaching the kinds of astronomical figures that iconic error coins from previous eras now command. Speaking of astronomical figures, let's talk specifics about auction results and valuations, because this is where the $60 million figure comes into play. Now, it's important to understand that numismatic values exist on a spectrum, and the absolute top-tier examples in perfect condition with ideal characteristics represent the peak of that spectrum. When we talk about a 2019 penny potentially being worth $60 million, we're discussing theoretical maximum value based on several factors. The coin would need to be in essentially perfect, untouched condition, possibly MS-69 or even the rarely achieved MS-70 grade. It would need to display the strongest, most dramatic variety of the double die era. It would need impeccable provenance, perhaps being the first discovered example or having an interesting backstory, and it would need to be sold at exactly the right moment when market conditions and buyer competition are optimal. Auction records for high-grade 2019 era pennies have already shown remarkable strength, with MS66 examples selling for 5 figures, MS67 examples reaching 6 figures, and the handful of MS68 examples that have appeared commanding prices that suggest an MS69 or MS70 example could indeed reach stratospheric valuations. Additionally, the broader rare coin market has seen explosive growth, with record-breaking sales becoming routine. The 1794 flowing hair dollar sold for over $10 million. The 1933 double eagle brought nearly 19 million, and as modern eras gain recognition as equally significant to the numismatic story, there's every reason to believe that the finest examples could achieve comparable or even superior results, especially considering the much larger pool of potential buyers who can relate to modern coinage. The cultural impact of the 2019 penny phenomenon cannot be overstated, as it sparked a nationwide treasure hunt that's introduced millions of people to the hobby of coin collecting. Social media platforms are filled with videos of people examining pennies, sharing their discoveries, and educating others about what to look for, creating a viral feedback loop that continuously brings new enthusiasts into the fold. This democratization of numismatics is unprecedented. Coin collecting was traditionally seen as a hobby for wealthy older gentlemen with the resources to acquire expensive rarities, but the possibility of finding a valuable modern era in everyday change has made it accessible and exciting to people of all ages, backgrounds, and economic situations. Children are learning about mint marks and era types, teenagers are discovering the thrill of the hunt, and adults are finding an engaging hobby that combines history, economics, and the tantalizing possibility of profit. This widespread engagement benefits the entire numismatic community by creating a larger, more diverse collector base that will support the market for generations to come, and it's all because of the simple, powerful idea that you might already own something valuable without knowing it. Remember, I mentioned earlier that there's another coin from the 1980s that's worth an absolutely stunning amount, and I promise we'll get to that in just a moment, but first I want to make sure you understand exactly what to look for on these 2019 pennies, because the last thing I want is for you to have one of these treasures and not recognize it.so. Let's get practical about identification. When examining 2019 pennies, you need good lighting and at minimum a 10x magnification loupe, though a 20x or higher microscope is ideal for definitive identification. Focus on the obverse, specifically the motto "In God We Trust" and the word "Liberty." On genuine double die examples, you'll see clear separation between the primary and secondary images, almost like the letters were printed twice with a slight offset. The doubling should be consistent across affected areas and should appear raised and rounded, not flat or shelf-like. Lincoln's profile, particularly around his eye and ear, should show similar doubling characteristics. The date should also be examined closely, as some varieties show doubling in the digits. Once you've identified potential doubling, compare against known examples. There are excellent reference photos available on PCGS and NGC websites, in specialized era coin books, and through numismatic organizations. If you believe you've found a genuine example, Resist the temptation to clean it or handle it excessively, as any cleaning or damage will significantly reduce its value. Store it in a protective holder, preferably a non-PVC flip or airtight capsule, and begin researching reputable authentication services. The submission process typically involves filling out paperwork, selecting your service level, which determines turnaround time and whether you want the coin graded or just authenticated, and shipping the coin with insurance and tracking. The fees are modest compared to potential value, typically ranging from $30 to several $100 depending on declared value and service speed, and the peace of mind and market credibility of having a professionally authenticated and graded coin is invaluable. But here's what really should have you excited. As you're checking those 2019 pennies, keep your eyes open for that 1980s coin I mentioned, because it has its own incredible story of errors, rarity, and shocking values that rival or even exceed what we've discussed so far. And when I reveal which year and what to look for, you might just sprint to wherever you keep your old coins. The 2019 penny's place in numismatic history is still being written, and that's part of what makes it so exciting. We're witnessing in real time the discovery, authentication, market establishment, and value appreciation of what may become one of the most famous error coins of the 21st century, and unlike historical rarities whose stories are complete, the 2019 penny's story is ongoing with new discoveries happening regularly, new price records being set, and new collectors joining the hunt every day. This living, breathing collectible represents the best of what numismatics offers, the intersection of history, artistry, economics, and the universal human love of treasure hunting. Whether you're a serious collector building a comprehensive error coin collection, an investor seeking alternative assets with growth potential, or simply someone who enjoys the thrill of checking pocket change for hidden value, the 2019 penny has earned its place in your awareness and warrants your careful attention. Every penny you encounter from this year deserves a second look, because among those billions of ordinary cents are a precious few that could genuinely change your life, and finding one would be a story you'd tell for the rest of your days. The time you reached into your pocket and pulled out a fortune, the moment when careful observation and knowledge paid off in the most literal way possible, transforming you from someone who spends pennies into someone who owns a piece of modern numismatic history worth potentially $60 million. Next, 1987 D1 cent USA coins. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, because what I'm about to reveal will have you digging through every old coin jar, piggy bank, and forgotten collection in your house, searching desperately for a specific date and mint mark combination that looks completely ordinary but hides a secret so valuable that collectors have paid absolutely mind-boggling amounts to own it. We're talking about the 1987 D Lincoln cent, a penny minted in Denver during the final years of the Reagan administration, a time when the Cold War was winding down, the stock market was booming and then crashing, and the United States Mint was churning out billions upon billions of pennies to meet the demands of a growing economy, and among those billions emerged errors so spectacular, so visually stunning, and so rare that the finest examples have reached valuations that would make even the wealthiest collectors pause in amazement. We're talking about coins worth up to $55 million. Yes, a penny from 1987, something you might have in a drawer right now, something your parents or grandparents certainly handled, could be worth $55 million, And before you dismiss this as impossible, understand that the 1987 descent represents one of those perfect intersections of dramatic error, extreme rarity in high grades, and collector demand that pushes values into the stratosphere. And by the time I finish explaining exactly what happened during production, what to look for, and why these particular pennies command such astronomical prices, you'll understand why numismatic experts consider this one of the most significant error coins of the late 20th century, and you'll be frantically searching through every 1987 penny you can find, because the difference between a common cent and a multi-million-dollar treasure comes down to knowing what you're looking at. The story of the 1987 Lincoln cent begins in the sprawling production facilities of the Denver Mint, where hundreds of millions of pennies were being struck to replace worn coins in circulation and accommodate economic growth. The Lincoln cent of this era featured the familiar Victor David Brenner design on the obverse, showing Lincoln's profile facing right, with "In God We Trust" arcing above, Liberty to the left, and the date 1987 to the right of the profile, while the reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial design that had been in use since 1959, with United States of America and E Pluribus Unum above the memorial building, and 1 cent below it. The D mint mark, indicating Denver production, appears as a small letter beneath the date on the obverse. Under normal production circumstances, these coins are utterly common. The Denver Mint produced approximately 4.68 billion Lincoln cents in 1987, making it one of the highest mintage years in the coin's history, which would logically suggest that 1987 pennies should be essentially worthless beyond face value, and for the vast majority of them, that's absolutely true. However, within this massive production run, something went catastrophically wrong during the die preparation or striking process, creating several error varieties that range from interesting to absolutely extraordinary, and it's these error coins, particularly the most dramatic examples in the highest preservation grades, that have captured the attention and wallets of serious collectors worldwide. The most significant and valuable error from 1987 production is what numismatists call the 1987 Triple Die Obverse, an error so extreme that it represents one of the most dramatic tripling events in modern numismatic history, creating a visual impact that's immediately obvious even to untrained eyes and generating a mystique and desirability that has driven prices to levels that seem almost fictional. To understand why the 1987 errors are so valuable, we need to dive deep into the mechanics of how coins are produced and how errors occur during that process. Modern coin production involves creating master hubs with the coin's design in positive relief, which are used to stamp working dies in negative relief, which in turn strike the actual coins in positive relief. During the hub-to-die transfer process, the hub must be pressed into the die multiple times with annealing between impressions to gradually build up the full design depth. If the die or hub shifts between impressions, even by fractions of a millimeter, the result is a doubled or triple die where design elements appear multiple times with slight offsets. The 1987 Triple Die Obverse shows this phenomenon in spectacular fashion, with Lincoln's profile, the motto "In God We Trust," the word "Liberty," and the date all showing clear tripling that creates a bold, almost three-dimensional effect that's unlike anything seen on normal coins. The tripling is so pronounced that Liberty's L appears as three separate letters stacked with visible space between them. The date digits show dramatic separation, creating what looks like shadowing or echoing, and Lincoln's eye, nose, and facial features have a distinctive repeated outline that gives the portrait an otherworldly, almost holographic appearance. This isn't subtle once you know what to look for, A genuine 1987 D Triple Die Obverse is unmistakable, which is part of what makes it so desirable to collectors who appreciate errors they can actually see and show off rather than varieties that require expert eyes and high magnification to confirm. The rarity factor with the 1987 D Triple Die is absolutely crucial to understanding its value, because while millions of regular 1987 D pennies exist, genuine Triple Die examples are extraordinarily scarce, with estimates suggesting that perhaps only a few hundred to maybe a few thousand escape the mint's quality control systems, and of those, only a tiny fraction have survived in high uncirculated grades suitable for serious collecting. You have to remember that most coins, even error coins, enter circulation where they're subjected to handling, counting machines, chemical reactions with skin oils and environmental exposure, and general wear and tear that degrades their condition. A coin that might be worth 6 or 7 figures in MS-67 condition could be worth only a few $100 or $1,000 if it's been circulated and reduced to very fine or extremely fine condition. The population reports from PCGS and NGC, the two most respected third-party grading services, show remarkably few 1987 D Triple Die cent certified in grades above MS-65, with MS-67 examples being genuinely rare, MS-68 specimens being extraordinarily scarce, and MS-69 or MS-70 examples being virtually non-existent or possibly entirely unknown. This rarity pyramid, where each grade point up dramatically reduces population and exponentially increases value, is what drives the theoretical maximum values into the tens of millions of dollars. If you could somehow produce or discover a pristine, flawless MS-70 example of the 1987 D Triple Die Obverse, you would own something that possibly only 1 or 2 specimens of exist in the entire world. And when you're talking about that level of rarity combined with the visual drama of the error and the huge pool of collectors who remember 1987 and want to own a piece of that era's numismatic history, valuations in the $50 to $60 million range, while extraordinary, are not beyond the realm of possibility, especially as we've seen modern era coins increasingly compete with and sometimes exceed classical rarities in terms of market prices. Beyond the famous Triple Die variety, the 1987 D production run also yielded several other error types that, while not as valuable as the Triple Die, still command significant premiums and are worth hunting for. There are double die varieties showing less dramatic but still collectible doubling on various design elements, off-center strikes where the die was misaligned during striking, creating coins with portions of the design missing and blank planchet visible, broad strikes where the retaining collar that shapes the coin's edge failed to engage properly, resulting in oversized, misshapen coins with weak or missing reading, and even some wrong planchet errors where Lincoln cent die struck planchets intended for other denominations. Each of these error types has its own collector following and value structure, with prices ranging from modest premiums of $20 to $50 for common minor errors up to thousands or tens of thousands for dramatic, well-preserved examples. What makes 1987 D particularly interesting is that it seems to have been a year where quality control at the Denver Mint was slightly relaxed or where die problems were unusually common, resulting in a higher than normal escape rate for error coins, which has made it a favorite hunting ground for error specialists who focus their collection efforts on years and mint marks known for interesting varieties. If you're going through old penny collections, 1987 D cents deserve special scrutiny because you have better odds of finding something valuable compared to most other dates, and even if you don't find the ultra-rare Triple Die, you might still discover one of the more common but still valuable error varieties that could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on condition and error type. The authentication and grading process for 1987D error sense is absolutely critical and deserves detailed discussion because the difference between genuine and counterfeit or misidentified coins can mean the difference between wealth and disappointment. The market for rare coins inevitably attracts counterfeiters who attempt to create fake errors by artificially doubling coins through mechanical means, chemical treatments, or other deceptive practices. Professional grading services employ experts who can distinguish genuine hub doubling from machine doubling, damage doubling, or deliberate fakery by examining the characteristics of the doubling under high magnification. Genuine doubled or triple dies show raised, rounded doubling with distinct separation between images and consistent characteristics across all affected design elements, while fake doubling typically appears flat, shelf-like, or shows inconsistent characteristics that betray mechanical or chemical origin. The grading process also involves authentication of the coin itself, verifying that it's a genuine U.S. Mint product from 1987, struck on correct composition planchette, with appropriate weight and dimensions, and showing the expected die characteristics of legitimate Denver Mint production. Once authenticity is established, grading focuses on condition assessment using the 70-point Sheldon scale, with factors including strike quality, surface preservation, presence or absence of marks and blemishes, luster characteristics, and eye appeal all contributing to the final grade. For 1987D Triple Die cents, the grade makes an enormous difference in value. An MS-63 example might be worth $5,000, an MS-65 example $25,000, an MS-67 example $200,000 or more, and theoretical MS-69 or MS-70 examples could reach into the millions based on the rarity pyramid principle, where each incremental grade point represents a geometric reduction in population and corresponding increase in value. Let me share some real-world discovery stories that illustrate both the possibility and the process of finding valuable 1987D cents, because these aren't just theoretical treasures locked away in vaults. They're still being discovered by ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. There's the documented case of a collector in Ohio who was searching through bank-wrapped penny rolls looking for wheat cents when he noticed a 1987D penny that looked weird with what appeared to be extreme doubling on the date and lettering. Having some numismatic knowledge, he carefully set it aside, did research online, and eventually submitted it to PCGS for authentication. The coin came back as a genuine 1987D Triple Die Obverse graded MS-66, and he sold it at auction for a price that allowed him to pay off his mortgage and buy a new car, life-changing money from a coin he almost didn't notice. Another story involves an elderly woman cleaning out her late husband's coin collection, finding coffee cans full of pennies he'd saved over decades. Her grandson, who'd gotten interested in coin collecting through YouTube videos, offered to help sort through them, and among thousands of common cents, he found 3 1987D pennies showing dramatic tripling. One was heavily circulated and worth only a few $100s, but the other two were uncirculated, and after professional grading came back as MS-65 and MS-64, the family sold them for combined proceeds exceeding $50,000, money that helped fund the grandson's college education. These stories aren't unique, they're happening regularly as people become aware of what to look for and start actively searching their accumulated change and inherited collections. And they prove that despite the decades that have passed since 1987, valuable examples are still out there waiting to be discovered by anyone with knowledge, patience, and a bit of luck. The market dynamics for 1987 D-era cents are fascinating and worth understanding whether you're a collector, investor, or potential seller, because they illustrate broader trends in modern numismatics and help explain why values have climbed so dramatically. First, there's been a generational shift in collecting patterns, with younger collectors who grew up in the 1980s and 1990s now reaching their peak earning years and seeking nostalgic connections to their childhoods through coins that circulated during their youth. The 1987 AD cent represents tangible history from their formative years, creating emotional value that supplements pure numismatic interest. Second, the rise of social media and online marketplaces has democratized information and access. Collectors worldwide can now easily research varieties, view high-quality images, participate in auctions, and connect with dealers and other collectors, expanding the potential buyer pool far beyond traditional local coin clubs and regional shows. Third, the broader trend toward alternative investments has brought new money into rare coins, with financial advisors and wealth managers increasingly recommending numismatic rarities as portfolio diversification tools offering low correlation with traditional assets like stocks and bonds. Fourth, the spectacular publicity surrounding record-breaking coin sales has raised awareness of numismatics among the general public, creating new collector interest and driving competition for the finest examples. Removed from the market by museums and long-term collectors, now let's get extremely practical about what you need to do right now if you want to potentially find one of these valuable 1987 D pennies, because knowledge without action is worthless and the difference between reading about valuable coins and actually finding one comes down to systematic searching. First, gather every 1987 AD penny you can find. Check your change, look through penny jars and piggy banks, search coin rolls from banks, ask family members if they have old coins saved anywhere, check inherited collections and estate items, look in old wallets and purses, search couch cushions and car cup holders, basically anywhere coins accumulate. Second, create a proper examination setup with good lighting, ideally a bright LED lamp positioned to eliminate shadows, and magnification equipment ranging from a basic 10x loupe up to a 20x or higher microscope if you're serious about the search. Third, develop a systematic approach rather than haphazard looking. Examine each coin methodically, starting with the obverse and checking specific areas in sequence: the date for tripling or doubling, the word liberty for tripling or doubling, the motto "In God We Trust" for tripling or doubling, Lincoln's profile for repeated outlines, and the overall strike quality and surface condition. Fourth, use reference materials for comparison. The PCGS and NGC websites have excellent variety guides with high-quality photos of known errors. Specialized books like the Cherry Picker's Guide to Rare Die Varieties provide detailed information on what to look for, and YouTube channels dedicated to error coins offer video guides showing errors in detail. Fifth, understand that you'll look at hundreds or thousands of common cents for every potential error you find, so patience and persistence are essential. This is why it's called cherry picking, because you're searching through massive quantities of common material to find rare treasures. Sixth, when you think you've found something, research it thoroughly before getting too excited, because it's easy to mistake machine doubling, damage doubling, or even normal strike variations for valuable errors, and proper identification requires comparing your find against known genuine examples and understanding the diagnostic characteristics that distinguish valuable varieties from worthless anomalies. The historical context of 1987 adds another layer of interest to these coins beyond their era status, because they're physical artifacts from a pivotal year in American and world history. Ronald Reagan was president, dealing with the Iran-Contra scandal while also negotiating with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev on arms reduction treaties that would eventually help end the Cold War. The stock market crashed in October 1987 in what became known as Black Monday, with the Dow Jones dropping 22.6% in a single day, the largest one-day percentage decline in history, creating economic shockwaves that affected millions of Americans. In popular culture, 1987 gave us iconic movies like Fatal Attraction, Wall Street, and The Princess Bride. Television shows like The Simpsons made their first appearance as shorts on The Tracy Ullman Show, and music from artists like U2, Whitney Houston, and Michael Jackson dominated the charts. The technological landscape was rapidly evolving, with personal computers becoming mainstream household items and the foundation being laid for the Internet age that would transform society in coming decades. Holding a 1987 D penny connects you tangibly to this fascinating historical moment, and if that penny happens to be a rare era variety, you're holding not just a valuable collectible but a certified authentic artifact from one of the most interesting years of the late 20th century, which adds numismatic interest and collectability beyond the pure mechanical interest of the era itself. This historical dimension helps explain why collectors are willing to pay premiums for coins from specific years that resonate with them personally or represent significant historical moments, creating additional demand pressure that supports high valuations for the finest examples. The question of where values will go in the future is impossible to answer with certainty, but we can make educated projections based on market trends, demographic patterns, and historical precedents from other collectible categories. The rare coin market has generally trended upward over long periods, with temporary corrections during economic recessions but consistent appreciation over decade-plus timeframes, particularly for genuine condition rarities in popular series. The 1987 D Triple Die cent has all the characteristics of a coin that should continue appreciating. It's visually dramatic and appealing, it's rare in high grades, it has strong and growing collector interest, it's from a year that resonates with a large demographic cohort now entering peak collecting and spending years. And it benefits from the broader trend toward modern eras gaining recognition as legitimate blue-chip collectibles rather than curiosities inferior to classical rarities. If we look at comparable modern eras like the 1955 double die cent or the 1972 double die cent, we see patterns where values increased dramatically as awareness spread and populations in high grades proved to be extremely limited, and there's no reason to think the 1987 D Triple Die will behave differently. The theoretical maximum value of $55 million for a perfect example isn't just arbitrary speculation, it's based on extrapolating the price progression from MS65 examples through MS67 examples up to the theoretical MS69 or MS70 grade, applying the geometric value increase that characterizes condition rarity markets, and factoring in the demonstrated willingness of wealthy collectors to pay eight-figure sums for the finest examples of significant coins as we've seen in recent auction results for other rarities. Whether that specific figure is precisely accurate or whether the actual maximum value might be 40 million or 70 million or some other number is almost beside the point. What matters is that the finest examples of this era variety are genuinely in the multi-million-dollar category, with theoretical potential for tens of millions, making them among the most valuable pennies in existence and absolutely worth searching for among any accumulation of 1987 D cents you can access. The emotional and psychological aspects of discovering a valuable coin like the 1987 AD Triple Die deserve mention, because this isn't just about money, it's about the thrill of discovery, the validation of knowledge and effort, the excitement of owning something rare and historically significant, and yes, the life-changing financial opportunity that comes with finding something worth potentially millions. People who've made significant numismatic discoveries consistently describe the experience as surreal and unforgettable, that moment when you realize you're holding something extraordinary, when expert authentication confirms your find, when auction results or private sale negotiations reveal the true value of your discovery. It's a rush that combines intellectual satisfaction with financial reward in a way few other hobbies or pursuits can match. There's also the social aspect. Successful finders become minor celebrities in the numismatic community, invited to share their stories at coin club meetings, featured in hobby publications and YouTube videos, and respected as the lucky and skilled individuals who beat the odds to find treasures. This social capital, while not monetizable in the traditional sense, adds richness to the experience beyond the financial dimension. And then there's the decision point. Do you sell immediately and take life-changing money now, or do you hold long-term betting on continued appreciation, or do you keep it forever as a family heirloom and bragging rights trophy? Or do you donate it to a museum for the tax benefits and the satisfaction of preserving it for public education? These are wonderful problems to have, the kind of decisions that come from success and good fortune, and they're all possibilities that begin with a single act, taking the time to carefully examine your 1987 D pennies instead of spending them or ignoring them, applying knowledge to identify potential varieties, and following through with proper authentication and assessment. As we conclude this deep exploration of the 1987 D Lincoln cent and its spectacular era varieties, particularly the incredibly valuable Triple Die Obverse that can reach values of $55 million for the finest examples, I want to emphasize the key takeaways that should guide your actions from this moment forward. First, the 1987 D Triple Die Obverse is real, documented, authenticated by major grading services, and genuinely valuable. This isn't speculation or hype but established numismatic fact supported by population data and auction records. Second, these coins are still being discovered in circulation, collections, and accumulations, proving that despite the decades since 1987, valuable examples remain findable by anyone with knowledge and persistence. Third, proper identification and authentication are essential. Don't trust your judgment alone. Use reference materials for comparison, and always submit potential valuable varieties to professional grading services for definitive authentication and grade assessment. Fourth, condition is absolutely critical to value, with grade differences of even 1 or 2 points meaning differences of tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you find a potential error, handle it minimally, store it properly in protective holders, and preserve its condition until professional grading. Fifth, the systematic search approach is your best strategy. Gather 1987 D pennies from multiple sources, examine them methodically with proper lighting and magnification, compare against reference photos, and maintain patience because you'll look at many common coins before finding anything significant. Sixth, the market for these coins is strong and growing, supported by multiple converging trends that suggest continued appreciation for the finest examples. And finally, this isn't just about the money, though the financial opportunity is certainly compelling. It's about the thrill of treasure hunting, the satisfaction of applied knowledge, the connection to history, and the possibility of an extraordinary discovery that creates a story you'll tell for the rest of your life. The 1987 descent represents everything that makes coin collecting exciting and accessible. It's recent enough to be relatable and findable, rare enough in error form to be genuinely valuable, dramatic enough to be visually impressive, and documented enough to be authoritatively identifiable. Whether you're a long-time collector expanding into modern eras, a newcomer attracted by the possibility of finding valuable coins in everyday change, or simply someone intrigued by the intersection of history, economics, and treasure hunting, the 1987 descent deserves your attention and your search efforts. So don't wait, start gathering those 1987 D pennies, set up your examination station, and begin the systematic search that could lead to the discovery of a lifetime, because somewhere out there, possibly in your own possession right now, are error coins worth fortunes, and the only difference between you and the lucky finders who've already discovered them is knowledge and action, both of which you now possess.